So continuing a little bit about talking about the arts and the way they see, I always say that conservatives have to get used to the idea that conservative art is not like conservative life, right? I mean, in Shakespeare, you see all kinds of things, a depth of knowledge, that I think in The Kingdom of Cain, I actually say you learn about man through his sin because man is sinful. So that is why art does not always deal with happy people who are well-adjusted and doing the right thing. So I was thinking, because there was a news story from the New York Times, as a former newspaper. The Supreme Court said on Monday that it will hear a First Amendment challenge to a Colorado law banning professional counseling services engaged in conversion therapy intended to change a minor's gender identity or sexual orientation. More than 20 states have similar laws, which are supported by leading medical groups, because the New York Times, I have to tell you, is supported by leading medical groups, and not tell you anybody who opposes these laws. Anyway, this is a law where you might send your kid if you think he's going to be gay, and theoretically the therapy can lessen his desires to be homosexual. And I have pretty strong feelings about this. I don't understand. I've never heard anybody. I've heard people online, but I've never met anybody who had been through conversions therapy and said it had worked. So I'm a little bit leery about whether it can be done or not. But there are all kinds of therapies that don't work, that nobody has ever outlawed. So I don't understand why somebody who says, listen, I have these desires and I'd like to see if I can get rid of them, can't go to this kind of therapy. I don't see why it should be outlawed. I can understand saying to somebody, well, you want to be wary about this. But I don't understand why it should be outlawed. I've never understood it. It seems like a violation of people's rights. And of course, if you're treating minors, then you have to be especially careful. Obviously, an adult who decides to, quote unquote, change his sex has a lot more rights to do this than parents should not have the right to do that to their child, because you're doing something permanent to your child that he's almost certainly going to regret in the future. And it also, it doesn't give him the choice. So, there are all kinds of questions about it, but I do think that if a minor of the age of reason says, I really want to go into this and try it, and I want to leave it if it doesn't work, I think you should be able to do it. Now, having said that, I have heard that there have been abusive versions of this, people electroshocking people when they had gay desires and stuff like that. So I've heard that there can be some really abusive stuff. How does the arts deal with this? Well, really two examples that I wanted to bring forward. There's a film in 2018 called Boy Erased with Joel Edgerton and who's in it? Nicole Kidman was in it. And this was based on the biography of a guy named Jared Conley, who went through conversion therapy and found it abusive, and he wanted to tell his story. And here is a brief clip of, I don't know how to pronounce his first name, Garrod, I guess, talking about, this is the guy who wrote the biography, talking about why he wanted to make this film and what it meant to him. It's cut 11.
So who's ready? Welcome to the Refuge Program. Come on.
I'm Garrod Conley. I'm the author of Boy Erased, now a major motion picture. Boy Erased is the story of my going into conversion therapy after being outed to my parents and the psychological torture that I endured while I was there.
You cannot be born gay.
Also, it's a story, I think, of my mom who takes me out of therapy and saves my life, and also has to go on her own journey of acceptance.
Now, I believe this guy. I didn't see the movie, but I believe this guy had a bad experience with this, and maybe even an abusive experience that should have been against the law. If it was, I don't know his full story, but I've always said this. I don't want to stop left-wingers from making movies. I want to stop the blacklist, and it may just be a tacit blacklist, but it's no question that it's there. Did you know scammers can steal your home with just a few forged documents? The FBI calls it house stealing because they're just not that creative. But criminals forge your signature, use a fake notary stamp, and file with your local recorder's office to transfer your home title. Then they can take out loans against your equity or sell your property without you even knowing until collection notices arrive. When was the last time you checked your home title? If you're like me, the answer is never, which is exactly what scammers count on. That's why you got to trust home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get: immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud should happen, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. Here is the best part. I have teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so you can find out if you're already a victim and get access to your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and use my promo code Klavan250 or click on the link in the description, and make sure to check out the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Klavan250 to get the protection and peace of mind you deserve. Here is a show that dealt with this exact same subject in a way that I thought was absolutely brilliant. It was The Shield. The Shield is one of my favorite TV shows ever. It's a really complicated show with a fantastic performance by Michael Chiklis as in the lead as a cop named Mackey. It's not based on, but inspired by the Rampart scandal in L.A., where an entire division, a precinct of the LAPD was discovered to be rampantly corrupt. And Chiklis plays this guy, Mackey, who is a corrupt cop, but also a good cop. And it's really, really interesting. The first episode was one of the best TV series I ever saw. It made me sit up straight. It was so original and different. And I just thought, oh, wow, some of the stuff that I've been writing about is now going to be on television, which turned out to be exactly right. And in this corrupt precinct, dominated by this wicked but talented man, there is a cop whose name I think is Lucian. I believe that's the guy's name, and he is an excellent patrolman, uniformed patrolman, what they call a uni. He was an excellent uniformed patrolman, and he's struggling because he's a Christian, but he's gay. He has what some people call same-sex attraction, and he keeps falling, going to people he shouldn't be going to, people who are really low-rent guys, and sleeping with them. And it kills him. It's just tearing him to shreds. He wants it to stop. And at one point, he goes to Mackey, this corrupt cop, and he tells him what this is like. So this is cut 12.
It's this thing inside of me. I push it down, it goes away, but then it comes back stronger. I shove it down again, but it just keeps on coming back till I don't have the strength to push anymore. God. I am so weak. I hate this thing inside of me.
Now, one of the great moments in this progress, because it lasts through, I think, the first season, is Mackey turns to him at one point and says, "You're gay, so what? So be gay." And you think, part of you thinks like, yeah, it's probably a good answer. But part of you thinks, wait, Mackey's the devil. He's obviously satanic in this show. So maybe this is the devil talking. You don't know where to stand. You don't know what the show is saying. You don't know what the show is saying. It's just showing you this guy's life. And you love him. He's a great cop, and you love the cops, and he's an honest guy and all this stuff. He's kind of a bright spot in this corrupt precinct. And he has been through conversion therapy, and it obviously has not gotten rid of this thing. He ends up, I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to give it away. He ends up marrying a woman. And they have trouble having children. And so he goes to the doctor to see if it might be sterile. And of course, to do that, you have to masturbate into a cup. And in order to masturbate in the cup, there are magazines there to help you do that in the bathroom. And he chooses the one that is of nude men. So in other words, what it's saying is he's made a choice with his life. He can do what he wants, but he can't choose what he wants. And I thought that was so realistic and so complex, because he's happy that he's done what he wants, but he still has this thing, as he says, inside him. That's a work of art. That is how art should work. Nothing wrong with this kid, who felt damaged by this telling his story. Obviously, nothing wrong with that. He should tell his story. But The Shield is a better story. It's a complex story. It's a story where the demands that this guy feels are coming from God and the demands that are coming from his body are in conflict. And that conflict is not going to go away. It's like the thorn in Paul's flesh that God will not take away and that he has to live with it. We don't know what it is. We don't know what Paul was complaining about, but we know that God wouldn't take it away. And so he had to live with that. And he looked at that weakness as making him rely on the strength of God. That to me is brilliant. And the entire show, in which you kind of identified with Mackie because he always was trying to keep from getting caught and being exposed, and he destroys everyone around him because he loops them into his corruption, and you still love him because when the moment comes, he can still catch the bad guy because he's such a bad cop. It was a really, really complex show, and it didn't partake of any pretension. It wasn't like some arty show. It was just a cop show like any other, except with this one difference, that its hero was corrupt. And so, to me, that's the way you tell stories. To me, that's the way you enjoy stories. That's what the kind of stories we should be supporting. Because if the best artists, and that's the kind of stories made by the best artists, and if the best artists aren't making our stories, ultimately you'll get kind of drivel and you will lose the culture. You can always write down. You can always, when you have the great artists writing something, you can always kind of have the popular artists writing their stuff, but you want to have those top people brought in. And to do that, you need a culture that welcomes them and loves them and understands that they're going to be difficult people making difficult works. And I think it's so important, and now is the time. For more great stuff, like and subscribe. And for even more, subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show wherever you get your podcasts.